On today's show, we're getting into the Hall of Fame. A comment was made. A player compared to Luka Doncic said that this player would be Luka Doncic if they played on any other team. That's Toni Kukoc.
That's a bold statement, but I'm actually here to entertain it.
We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
Dončić, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The Hall of Fame homie, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Well, big weekend for the NBA as far as the NBA family. Not a big weekend if you're just here for rumors and the fun transaction stuff.
The what?
Wait, do we have a? Oh, we don't have any rumors right now. We're still on Dragic watch. We're still on Ben Simmons watch. We're still on everything, basically until the season starts. But big weekend for the NBA. It's Hall of Fame weekend's always fun. It's always cool to see who gets that prestigious honor. I guess it's still prestigious. I mean, the NBA kind of just lets anybody in the world in. But you know what? It's all cool and all. But when you saw the class, what did you think of when you first saw the names?
Yeah, so the NBA class, I thought first, for your instant reaction is, oh, they shouldn't make it, right? Like your initial reaction is that somebody's name, you're like, oh, there's no way that person should make it. Oh, if they're making it. But this one was pretty solid, except for one name that we'll get into for sure. And there may be some other reasons why he made the Hall of Fame, just from the player standpoint. But this week starts your week with the latest NBA news and game recaps on Locked On NBA. Josh Lloyd, the fantasy GOAT, host of the #1 fantasy basketball podcast in the world, Locked On Fantasy Basketball. He takes you around the NBA's major headlines with the help of our local experts. Follow the Locked On NBA podcast today, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, Isaac Harris. So you mentioned the Hall of Fame class, and I want to just go through. This is the Hall of Fame class that was inducted. Because sometimes you're like, oh, the Hall of Fame, and then you're like, who is actually in it? Chris Bosh, let's just do the players quick. Chris Bosh, Toni Kukoc, what we mentioned before, Paul Pierce, Ben Wallace, Chris Webber, and there's a bunch of names of people that contributed in other ways. The ones that you guys will recognize are Bill Russell as a coach, and he was already obviously in as a player, but Bill Russell got put in as a coach. Rick Adelman. And then Jay Wright, we've mentioned a lot. We thought maybe he down the line could be a potential Mavericks coach because of the connections there. But Jay Wright was also put in. And then some other contributors, Lauren Jackson in the WNBA and a bunch of others.
Yeah, because, coaches can obviously get in whenever, they don't have to have the player rule to where you have to set out 5 years and then, then you can be elected in. There's been a lot of players, a lot of media people. Mark Stein got elected in, a year or so ago, a couple years ago. I will say this on a personal note. I love Hall of Fames. I've been to both the NBA, I say both, all three, NBA, NFL, and MLB. So the NFL one's in Canton, the MLB one's in Cooperstown, and obviously Springfield, Massachusetts for the NBA. And obviously the NBA one holds a special place in my heart. Now, I went years ago. They've done so many renovations and new stuff since then. But if you are an NBA nerd, you have to go at least once. I would almost say take 2 days out because go spend a lot of time. If you really want to go soak it in and read everything, go through all the cool exhibits and they have a bunch of interactive stuff. But I don't follow baseball as much as I used to. But Cooperstown was felt more historic. And but man, you got to go to Springfield, especially. Well, we'll talk more about it later on. You'll have a good reason to go in a couple years.
Yeah, I've only been to the NFL one. That's the only one that I've been to because it's in Ohio, and that one was great. You walk into the room with the busts, and it's an incredible. You're just staring at a bunch of stone people. You're waiting for them to come to life. But yeah, so the 5 players that made it, Toni Kukoc we'll talk about in a minute, but Bosh, Pierce, Wallace, Webber. Any of those guys you have any problem with getting in? Or which one stood out to you the most?
Well, Ben Wallace kind of surprised me. I love that he made it. Okay, let me just say that. I love that he made it. He's one of my personal like favorite players. Like if I had to do a personal top 20 that I enjoy, like the uniqueness of their game, he's probably like in my lifetime that I've seen play. I think he's in the top 20 just because an undersized center who couldn't shoot threes, and it's like you kind of don't see him much anymore in today's game.
Not just couldn't shoot threes. Like let's go a little bit. Like could not shoot at all. Like could not make a bucket. My guy averaged 5.7 points for his career. Right? Like the most points he ever scored in a single season, like on average, was 9.7. That's it. Like guy couldn't score. He just could not score at all, and made the Hall of Fame. He made a bunch of, obviously, a couple of All-Stars. He obviously was Defensive Player of the Year 4 times. Like
four times.
Yeah, just all that stuff that you mentioned. Like we're talking about a player that was just adverse to offense, basically, but made an impact.
But that Pistons team, when you look at finals and championship teams over the past, I mean, gosh, how long? Let's just go the past 30 years. You look at these unique teams that stick out. One, if you just take out the Bulls, you take out the Spurs, you take out the Lakers, and then let's just say you take out the Warriors, there's only a select few teams in there that are left, right? And you have these kind of one-off teams that have won these titles. We know this as Mavericks fans. We hold that 2011 title so true to us. And I think back to that Pistons team too. Now, that Mavericks team in 2011, we obviously had Dirk. We had the surefire number one alpha Batman top 15 player of all time. The Pistons didn't have that, and it's like, is that the last team that we're gonna see like to win a title, to win and it's not a disrespect to Chauncey and Rip Hamilton and Tayshaun and Rasheed and Ben Wallace and those guys, but they didn't have a top 10 player on that team. Like at the time, it's like, are we ever going to see another team like the Pistons win a title? And for me, I hated the Lakers so much, so I was rooting for the Pistons so much back then. And I loved seeing, and one of the reasons why I love Ben Wallace is to see how Ben Wallace defended Shaq. And when Ben Wallace blocked a Shaq dunk, it was one of the coolest like feats I've seen of like an NBA player.
That 2014 Spurs team, I think, was the closest because they had Tim Duncan, they had Ginobili, they had Parker. Those guys were like your surefire Hall of Famers, but like they weren't all at that level. They weren't like top 10 players like you're talking about in the NBA at the time. They're obviously going to be Hall of Famers, and Manu Ginobili is going to be up next year. And they, by the way, we should talk about the players that are going to be announced next year for Hall of Fame as well. They just talked about those, but yeah, that team got the closest to me. But yeah, Ben Wallace making it in. I went and looked it up real quick. There's a couple of players that have gotten into the Hall of Fame averaging less than like 8 points a game in their career. Ben Wallace is the lowest by far, obviously, 5.7. Dennis Rodman, 7.3. Casey Jones, 7.4. And a couple of older players as well. But yeah.
Can I give you a semi-hottish take? If there was a player who shouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame, if you had to pick one out of this group, it's not Ben Wallace, it's not Toni Kukoc, it's Chris Webber.
Oh, Chris Webber's an interesting one. He's polarizing as a candidate like this because let's go through his career. 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA. He was All-Rookie, Rookie of the Year.
And it stops there.
Yeah, right. Like his playoff performance.
I mean, he won. He got to the national title game in college like twice, but he didn't win it.
Yeah, but if you just, I mean, honestly,
wait, hold on, time out. Oh, do we have any timeout? It wasn't a ad break.
If we just go off of his impact from college, just the way that team impacted basketball and all that, I think that he should honestly just make it based off of Michigan alone.
All right. Where's Jalen Rose's jacket, guys?
The NBA stuff was just like extra, like put him over the top. And for some people that qualified him, but the Michigan stuff was huge. Also, do you just put him on based on merits as a player, or do you also consider impact? Because we're about to talk about a player that made an impact, but may not have been the best player at the time. For
Chris Webber, his averages is one that is the ones that helped him most. Like averaging 20 and 9, like that. I mean, that's good. Like, and he was at his like peak. Chris Webber was a good player. That Sacramento team was fun.
For his career, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Like that. I mean, for his career, right? A pretty long career. He played from age 20 to age 34. I mean, that's
I'm just saying, if I had to pick one, I feel like Ben Wallace got a lot of like, oh my gosh, why is he in? Toni Kukoc was a dialogue over the past few days, a little bit on NBA Twitter. It's like, if I had to pick one, I'd pick both of those guys over Chris Webber. And so, but that's just me. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a Chris Webber stan. Let
us know in the comments what you think about it. But coming up, we're going to get into a conversation that I think will interest a lot of Mavs fans, because Toni Kukoc was inducted into the Hall of Fame. We've been talking about it, going on about it. But Sam Smith, a long time, probably the greatest, like, Bulls beat reporter maybe ever, and maybe
Jordan
beat reporter
Rules.
ever. Jordan Rules wrote that book and all that. Had a comment about comparing Toni Kukoc to Luka Doncic. We'll get into that. We'll share the clip coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Sweatblock. Sweatblock is something that you need, something that I need. I went to, I was in Deep Ellum at the Arts Festival over the weekend, and I was walking around, and it was dark. There's no sun out and anything, and I'm still just sweating through my shirt. I needed to take Sweatblock. I even told my wife, I think I would have been fine if I just would have used Sweatblock this week, and I didn't. So go use them. Go get them. They are available at Amazon. They're available at CVS, but you can get them at sweatblock.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 20% off. They're just these towelettes. You wipe them under your underarms the night before, and they'll give you a dry shirt guarantee for 7 days. You don't sweat through your clothes. It's your secret. It's your secret to wearing what you want again. Go check it out, sweatblock.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 20% off. Also, want to tell you about DirecTV. I had this problem today. It's when NFL comes back, you're like trying to figure out where all your stuff is, trying to figure out where, I'm going to watch my Bengals on this thing. I'm going to watch Red Zone on this. You can combine all the stuff that you want. You can combine your sports highlights. You can combine your favorite shows, all that kind of stuff, your live games on DirecTV Stream. It brings all your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. Get rid of the clutter and the confusion. Get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more conversation. So we've been putting off Toni Kukoc because we wanted to have a little longer conversation. He was the player that I first initially went, oh, come on. There's no way that Toni Kukoc should make the All-NBA or should make the Hall of Fame. Like, there's just as a player, like as an NBA player, that's my only reference for him because I didn't know him before that. Yes, he 3-time champion with the Bulls. Like, I understand that. He was 6th man of the year one year. He made the all-rookie team, I guess, but like he didn't like, just for the Bulls. Career averages of 14 points, 5 boards, like 4 assists. Like, that's
3-time EuroLeague MVP though.
But I'm saying I'm getting there. Just the 7 years for the Bulls. So I'm looking at him as just an NBA player, saying there's no way this guy should make it. But his contributions on the European side, obviously is what put him in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when the Bulls, got him, they, he wasn't a, top 5 pick or anything like that. It was this young kid. He played split Croatia. I think he played for Yugoslavian national team, played Team USA at such a young age, and that's first started hearing his name, at least I did, around that time, and then bam, he comes into I mean, you watch how he was talked about in the Jordan doc over the summer. He was talked, the players talking about him. You've seen all the stuff that the Chicago Bulls have put out over the past week of past players that have talked about how good he really was, and it's like you have this young, I don't want to say prodigy, but you have this young European star who won 3 MVPs in the EuroLeague, who comes over, and it's like, you're joining the Chicago Bulls, like you're going to be on the team with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and these guys, and now you're going to come off the bench. And so the question does come up. I'm like, this is the question you have to think about whenever you look at how good Toni Kukoc was, or how good could he have been if he didn't have those guys, is if he had his own team, what would he look like? And that was so cool seeing what Sam Smith had to say about that today.
And here, let's hear from Sam Smith and what he had to say comparing Toni Kukoc to our very own Luka Doncic.
When the Bulls went and drafted Toni Kukoc with a second-round pick, it should have been viewed as this incredible coup. You know, here was this one of the great players in the history of certainly European basketball. You look at the NBA now. Who's the champion? Guy from Greece. Who's the MVP? Guy from Eastern Europe. Who's the best player to watch? Luka Doncic, another European player. Basically, the NBA is dominated now for the most part by European players. If Toni had gone, almost any team other than the Bulls, he would have been one of the great players, and he'd be what Luka Doncic is now. He'd have been essentially virtually an NBA candidate.
Interesting. Toni Kukoc would have been what Luka Doncic is now. Now he gave us the Dončić, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, just give me a Luka Doncic. But what did you think
Reggie
about Sam
Miller's
Smith's
special?
About Sam Smith's comment here?
You know, I think initially when you compare anyone to Luka, you're like, okay, come on. Like, I don't know about that. But one, Sam Smith has been around for a long time. He's seen a lot of good players. And I actually don't think it's that crazy. I don't know if he would be at Luka's level. I don't think he would be like Luka level. But I think we could be talking about Toni Kukoc in a whole different stratosphere than a, 6-man coming off the bench for Bulls, like an extra to Michael Jordan's 90 run. I don't think that that's what Toni Kukoc would be if he had his own team. Like, you go back and look at early Toni Kukoc, you look at European days, you look at European MVP days. I mean, he's 6'10", could handle the ball, could play make. Like, there was a couple years in Chicago, he averaged like 38, 40% from three. Like, the dude could shoot the ball too. And it's like, what could he, I mean, you see all the highlights of him, weaving in and out of defenders, doing the lefty layups and stuff. Like, the dude had size. And you're like, what? Now, if he went to a different team, what is the likelihood that they put the ball in his hands and run the offense through him? I don't know about that. But, like, I think think about Toni Kukoc. If he came into the league today at 6'10" and could handle the ball, and that's where my mind is like, man, what would he be? Because he would be really, really good.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's especially if he came into today's NBA, like you said, his skills would have been used a lot more effectively and efficiently. And we have to point out, I mean, he was playing with freaking Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Those are the two guys, especially in an era where it was kind of get your own shot, and those two guys were going to get their own shot. And it wasn't this, get your own shot, but then the offensive initiator creator also distributes and is like 30 points, 10 assists. Like, that just didn't happen back then, right? Like, you just didn't share the ball like that. You just didn't pass around like that. And we've seen in the Jordan documentary and all kinds of stuff, the way that they treated Toni Kukoc when he came into the NBA, right? It wasn't just this, let's bring him in and try and get this guy going, and let's try and get him, the ball a lot, right? He had to earn pretty much everything he got with that Bulls team. So, yeah, it's really interesting to look back. You take the inverse. If Luka was playing in that era, would he be Toni Kukoc?
No, I mean, you'd think it's just such a hard thing, to think about. Like, what team would he have went through? What would they have tried to do with Luka back then?
If Luka had gotten drafted by the Golden State Warriors, right? When they had Durant, Curry, Clay, right? What would Luka have been like? He would be more like a Toni Kukoc, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, and
no, see, yeah. I'm not falling for that. I think
no, but I'm like, initially, like, it's hard to even like think about that, because Luka was so good. Like, when he came into his, like, he would never go. Like, Toni was a second round pick because there was so much, like, it's so much different now. Like, even when Sam Smith goes into that whole thing of like, look at the MVP of the league right now is Jokic.
Yeah.
The MVP of the finals was Giannis. Luka's the most exciting player in the league. Like, Europeans and international players are looked at so much different now compared to back then. I mean, you look at a guy like Arvydas Sabonis, who came into the league in his 30s. It's like he was so dang good and probably still the best passer outside of Jokic, him and Jokic, at the big man spot we've ever seen. It's like, what would he look like if he came in at a young age? Look at when Dirk came in at such a young age, and he was so raw. It's like Europeans were just looked at so much different back then. So I think it's not really a talent thing. It's like, how would they view Luka if he came into the league in the 90s? Like, would he get the respect that he did coming into the league now?
Dirk did a lot of legwork for a lot of these players, right? That's one of the things I thought of immediately when I heard that comment from Sam Smith. I was like, oh man, like think about where we are now and where they were back when Toni Kukoc and it was, Jordan. Like Dirk did a lot of work to gain respect, as for European players to gain respect, and a lot of other players have as well, but I think Dirk did a lot. Now there's that recent comment about Michael Jordan saying who could have played in your era, and it was like, and he said this in like 2013. He's like Dirk and like a couple other players that were kind of obvious, and you're like, oh dang, like he really did a lot to gain respect from a lot of players, American players, and now it's paying off for all these other guys that get chances, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it was super cool, over the weekend, Jordan like presented Kukoc. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really, really cool of MJ to do that. And I looked up, have you glanced at Toni Kukoc's nicknames on Basketball Reference?
There's a lot of
because
them. Yeah.
I didn't know hardly any of these.
Wait, coming up.
Coming up next, we're going to tell you why the Pink Panther is listed as a nickname for Toni Kukoc.
How could you not stick around after that tease? But let's talk about RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's impossible for your, roadside car place that just has stocked parts. How could they have every single thing that you need? Rock Auto has that for you. They can deliver it straight to your door. Why would you want to spend 30, 50, 100% more for the same parts as your chain or, even your dealership? Why would you want to spend that much more at price parts there? Why would you want to do that? RockAuto.com is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for 20 years. Go check out RockAuto.com. Use their promo code LOCKEDON to tell us that you heard Rock Auto on the Locked On Mavericks podcast. Again, go to RockAuto.com, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. They know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. All right, Isaac Harris. So we were talking about Toni Kukoc, and you mentioned his nicknames on Basketball Reference. We'll get into some more stuff about him and about the comparison with Luka, and then we'll talk about Dirk's potential, Hall of Fame candidacy coming up too.
According to Basketball Reference, nicknames for Toni Kukoc is the Croatian Sensation.
I like that one.
The Waiter.
No, that's like when Durant came in and wanted to be the servant. Like no, I'm out.
A little Luka territory here. Euro Magic.
No, I'm not for that one.
The Pink Panther.
I have no idea why, but I'm in.
Spider of Split.
What does that even mean? Splits the defense? I guess splits the defense.
I guess so. And then Kuki.
I just did both because I don't know what that means.
Here's a good one. Alien.
Alien?
Just alien. Yeah.
No, I'm out.
And then the last one is Special K.
I guess so. I guess I'm in on that one.
What a list. What a great list.
What a wild list.
Coming up in 2 years, though. Are you going to be there? Should we do Locked On Mavs from Springfield?
Oh, man. We should.
I've legitimately, already put into motion to go. So I've been wanting to go back. I know some people who live up there, and I thought about going last year, and then I was like, well, dang, if I don't really, especially with little ones now going on vacation and stuff, I don't know if my wife and family would want to go to Springfield, Massachusetts. But I was like, you know what? I might as well just wait for Dirk at this point and go up for that. So, I mean, I plan on going, but I think so that class. So next year, do you have the list in front of you? Who's going to be next year? So next year, it's like Manu Ginobili.
So here's the players that are Basketball Hall of Fame eligible in 2022. Joe Johnson.
This is the year before Dirk and Wade. So we get one more year next year, then Dirk and Wade. But who's next year?
Joe Johnson, Manu Ginobili.
Does big three stats help Joe Johnson?
David West. Zach
David
Grant.
West.
Actually, it's Naismith. It's Basketball Hall of Fame, so I think it does.
So, okay.
Dude,
that's the thing with Toni Kukoc, and people were bringing like this is
he was in the big
Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
this is not the NBA Hall of Fame. You have to remember that whenever you look into why players make it.
Okay, so Joe Johnson, Manu Ginobili, David West, Zach Randolph, Mavs legend, Zach Randolph. Real Mavs legend, Jason Terry is eligible. Richard Jefferson.
I wouldn't be getting a Hall of Fame tattoo.
Richard Jefferson, and Josh Smith and Al Jefferson.
So
they
Ginobili.
put Jason Terry's Hall of Fame probability at 0.5%.
I repeat, I would not get the Hall of Fame tattoo.
Man,
some carryover.
Basketball References percentage, by the way.
Some carryover names is I'm really curious to see if Tim Hardaway Sr. gets in next year. He hasn't gotten in yet. There's a couple other, I think Marcus Johnson maybe. Feels like there's another name or two that could possibly get in. But
Tim Hardaway Sr. is interesting because we talk about Chris Webber. Tim Hardaway Sr., 5-time All-NBA, 5-time All-Star. That's the same exact as Chris Webber. So, what's the difference?
Did he go to the finals in college basketball, though?
That's what I'm saying. I think the college basketball stuff puts Chris Webber over the top, whereas Tim Hardaway, he didn't have that. And so then,
hey, let's count the banners for the Fab Five. So, next year, probably be a little down year compared to, last year we had Duncan and Kobe and those guys and Garnett. That was a massive one. Then we had this year, which was, Paul Pierce, Bosh, and those guys. But 2 years from now, Dirk, Dwayne Wade.
That's huge.
One, I just hate that Dwayne Wade's going in that day. It's so frustrating. But when you think about it from Dirk and think about all the people it's going to be there, I'm legit could get emotional if I really start thinking about just the celebration of Dirk, what the Mavericks are going to do for that, what the NBA is going to do for that, all of the different videos and everything made for Dirk, rightfully so that year. Who do we think is going to present Dirk?
By the way, Tony Parker eligible for that year as well. So
he'll probably get in, right? Mm-hmm. Probably. Well, I think if you ever ask, come on.
Chris Webber's making it. Toni Kukoc is making it. Tony Parker's making it.
If you ever ask, probably, that means yes. If someone's getting it.
Right. Who will present Dirk? There's a couple of interesting ones. Tony Romo. No, I'm just kidding.
Mavs legend, Tony Romo.
Yeah, one-time teammate.
Well, I think you look at the night, his last night when they brought his favorite people there to midcourt.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Will one of those guys do it? Will Barkley?
It was Charles Barkley. It was Larry Bird. It was
Pippen.
Scottie Pippen. And it was
Detlef.
Detlef Shrimp. Yeah.
Feels like there was one more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But I could see Barkley. Barkley's always spoke super high of him.
He's presented 3 people at this Hall of Fame.
So did he really?
Yeah. He presented Jay Wright. He presented Bill Russell as a coach, and he presented Cotton Fitzsimmons.
Interesting. Sneaky one.
Mark Cuban.
Steve Nash.
You think Mark Cuban wouldn't do it?
No, I think it has to be someone who's in.
Oh,
I could be wrong though.
No, you're totally right. It is.
I think so, but Cuban could be in. Cuban could have his.
I don't think so. No,
Cuban could have his have an NBA bust and just himself. Could Steve Nash?
Steve Nash is pretty good. I don't think Steve Nash is in yet, is he?
Yeah, he just made it a year or so ago.
Steve Nash would be a great one. That actually is probably the leader in the clubhouse for me. So
see, yeah, I wonder if he'll do the Steve Nash route. I wonder if it'll be somebody older.
Who's players that? Larry Bird, right? Can we just?
Yeah,
he was there.
I want to say it's going to be Bird or Barkley.
Barkley makes sense because he has that whole story about before Dirk made it in the NBA, and he put 40 on him or whatever.
Yeah,
he had that whole story. He talked about Auburn and trying to recruit him and pay him money to go to Auburn.
Don Nelson.
Don Nelson is an interesting one, but I don't think it's going to be him.
Either way, man, I can't wait. His speech is going to be amazing. You know, he's going to like make fun of himself. He's probably going to be like, "Oh, they're letting anyone in now." You know, he's going to say some fun stuff, and and then it's going to be Dwayne Wade falling down and get back up again. And
what about Jason Kidd? They were teammates. They won the title together. Kidd is in the Hall of Fame, and Dirk just picked him to be the coach of the Mavericks, so they're close.
I don't think so.
Okay, just throwing it out there as an option.
I think I would pick Steve Nash over Kidd.
They have way more like party hours together, right? Like they've logged more hours.
Is Luka in attendance?
Recreational. Oh yeah, everyone. This will be an all hands on deck experience.
And that's very correct, because if Isaiah Stewart is in attendance for Ben Wallace's induction,
well, that's like is Larry Marketing going to be there for Dirk's?
I mean, is he a Mav yet?
He should be. He should be in there.
But Cuban's going to bring out all the stops for that,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could do like prop bets right now. Will Dirk have a statue before?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's do that.
Then?
Will his jersey be retired before then? Will the
statue? Yeah, that's happening. Yeah.
Will the statue be up before then? These are big questions.
Yeah, I think all of that happens fairly quick.
Before?
Yeah, before.
Okay.
So.
Interesting.
It'll be a lot of fun.
There you go. That's the Hall of Fame. That's what we think. Toni Kukoc thing is interesting, talking about comparing him to Luka. The Dirk thing, who's going to present Dirk? Big questions we got for the next couple of years. And we'll still be doing this podcast probably by the time we get to there. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.